Good morning, everyone. I'm Connie Horsterl with the County Manager's Office. So nice to see you all. Before we begin, I just wanted to let you know that unfortunately, Supervisor Horsley will not be able to join us. However, we do have County Executive Mike Callaghy, who would like to kick us off this morning with some welcome remarks. Mike?
Thank you, Connie. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. And it's great to see some familiar faces here and some new faces. It's been a long time. And I want to start by saying the President of the Board, Supervisor Horsley, really wanted to be here, but he had a last minute engagement that he had to take care of. So he wanted me to send his best and his thanks. And I've got to say that I'm extremely proud to be here on behalf of the county, welcoming all of you, because you play such a vital role in what we do as a county. This is government by the people, for the people, and you represent that. You have taken time out of your busy days to make a decision to join one of the county boards or commissions in an effort to help the Board of Supervisors shape policy and do a lot of the work behind the scenes necessary for us to make decisions on the front end. We understand the sacrifice that you all make to do this, and we greatly appreciate it. You can also help us with one of our initiatives to include folks of diverse backgrounds on our boards and commissions, as it's really been a focus of this board of supervisors, to make sure that we have inclusive boards and commissions, and that we have diverse boards and commissions. And we're very excited about the opportunity to have all of you help us with that initiative in the future. I've got to say that I think we've, in the past, neglected some of our boards and commissions, and we've taken them for granted. We have a new focus now on boards and commissions, and I put Connie in charge. Before, I think it was kind of all over the place, but Connie has done a great job. And I said, in onboarding and offboarding, we wanted to make sure that we focused on that, and that we had a handbook that everyone can refer to, and that was updated and informative, and something that you could really refer back to and utilize at any time. And Connie's done a great job with staff of putting that together. So we have a renewed focus on our boards and commissions and the part that you play here in the county. I personally look forward to meeting all of you in person at one time or another in the future, and getting to know you better. Again, it takes special people. We only have a finite amount of time, but for you to take some of that time and share that with the county is something that needs to be recognized. And certainly I thank you for that. So with that, let me turn it back over to Connie to get your day started, or your morning. I think you were with us for 2.5 hours. I know it's going to be an exciting, informative day, and hopefully you look forward to it as much as I am. Thanks much, Connie.
Thank you, Mike. We appreciate you joining us this morning and welcoming the group. So, as Mike said, we have lots of information to share with you this morning. So we're going to really work to try to stay on schedule. So just a quick overview of today's schedule, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about some ground rules, and then introduce our presenters. So the first thing I'd like to say is that we are going to ask that you please mute yourselves throughout the session, unless you have a question that you'd like to ask. We have 2 Q&A periods built into the training, so you will be able to raise your hand and ask your questions, or type them into the chat. So there will be an opportunity for that. We are recording the session, as you can see, because there's been a lot of interest in the training, and unfortunately, some board and commission members couldn't join us today. So we will be making the recording available, as well as all of the materials for the training on the boards and commission website. And then we will have a 5-minute break around 9:45 to give you a chance to stretch your legs, take a bio break, or do whatever you need to, and then we'll get back to the second half of our session. So with that, I wanted to begin with some questions. We'd like to know who's in the room with us today. We have 170 participants, which is terrific. And so I wanted to begin with asking you who you are. So if you would, I'm going to go ahead and give you a minute to answer 2 questions. The first one is, what board or commission do you serve on or staff? And the second question relates to what other types of trainings have you attended in the past? So let's take a minute to complete that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll now, and looking at the results here of the poll. So it seems like we have lots of folks from pretty much all of our boards and commissions attending today, which is terrific. So I'm very pleased to see that so many of you have decided to join us. This is terrific. Okay, and then the last question, of course, is what other topics or trainings have you taken in the past? Lots of Brown Act and ethics, so that's terrific. Okay, so with that, I will stop sharing and we will move on. Okay, thank you for that. So as Mike mentioned, we did, as one of the first acts in supporting all of you, was to revise the Board and Commission Handbook. So I hope that all of you have received that. If not, I will put it into the chat. But I hope that you will find that revised handbook helpful, and it will serve as the foundation for lots of the information that you will be hearing from today's presenters. So, and if you have any suggestions on other information, please let us know. All right, well, with that, let me introduce my colleagues who are going to be presenting today. We've got a great group of folks who, with lots of expertise, that are here to present on all of the topics. So we have Dan Valin and Melissa Andrikopoulos from the County Counsel's Office, who will be talking about roles and responsibilities, and then also the legal guidelines for service on boards and commissions. We also have Craig Wiesner from the LGBTQ Commission, who will be talking about roles and responsibilities of membership. So that'll be very important to hear. We also have Tanya Beat, who's the director of the LGBTQ Commission and the Commission on the Status of Women. She has tremendous experience with supporting boards and commissions, and so she will be talking about how to run effective meetings, which is always an important thing. And then we have Shireen Malacazali. She's the county's chief equity officer, and she'll be talking about equity in boards and commissions work. And then finally, we have Samantha Tucci, who is a legislative analyst in the county manager's office. She works closely with me, and so she will be reviewing legislative advocacy and legislation on boards and commissions. So lots of great information there. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dan and Melissa to kick us off with the boards and commissions basics. Dan and Melissa?
Great, thank you, Connie. Good morning, everyone. My name is Melissa Andrikopoulos. I'm a Deputy County Counsel for San Mateo County, and I'm gonna take this first section by myself, so you'll get to meet Dan a little bit later. Connie, do you want me to drive the
Yes.
slideshow, or do you want to pull it up?
No, if you wouldn't mind, you can run it yourself.
That would be great. Just give me 1 minute. All right, can I do the annoying ask if you can see my screen?
We can, Melissa.
Great, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to start off today just with some pretty high level, an overview of board and commission basics. So we're going to touch on, what's the purpose of these boards and commissions in the county? What kinds of boards and commissions does the county have? And what are some of the duties of your membership on these boards and commissions? So first of all, getting to the purpose of the county's boards and commissions, I think County Executive Callaghy touched on this a little bit. Your role as boards and commission members is really to provide the county with an important perspective that they might not be able to get otherwise, right? There are many, many, many of you and many fewer of some of the county decision makers. For example, only 5 members of the Board of Supervisors. So you all provide that really important perspective to important county decisions. Part of that is gathering and analyzing public input. You can sort of filter and analyze that for the county and then recommend options when the county is considering taking an action. In certain situations, some of our boards and commissions provide advice or make decisions that are required by statute. So you might be fulfilling a role for the county that's required by law in terms of gathering input, providing advice, or making a decision. And really overall, your role is to further the public benefit for the county of San Mateo. So there are generally 2 kinds of boards and commissions that we have here at San Mateo County. One is what we call advisory boards and commissions. The other we refer to as decision-making boards and commissions. So one type primarily provides advice to decision makers such as the Board of Supervisors, sometimes directly to a department. A decision-making body actually has the ability to make final decisions on behalf of the county. So to give you an example that will hopefully help explain this a little bit, I'm going to go to the land use context, which is sort of where I'm the most comfortable. The county has a number of what are called municipal advisory councils. I'm sure there are some members on our meeting today that serve in those roles. And if there's a land use development that has some discretionary permits that are in their area, their geographical jurisdiction, those advisory councils might consider that project, review it, and make a recommendation as to whether they think that project should be approved. Now that recommendation, that advice, is translated up to the decision maker at the county, which might be, for example, the Planning Commission, right? And the Planning Commission would be an example of a decision-making body that has the power to actually approve a development in this example. Some of the county's boards and commissions play both roles. The Planning Commission is an example of that one. They can, in some instances, they actually make decisions. In other instances, they are in an advisory role to the Board of Supervisors. So how do you figure out which kind of board or commission you are serving on? Where I'd recommend you start is to take a look at the documents that created your board or commission. I call these your formation documents. I'd say most typically that's going to be a resolution of the Board of Supervisors. Sometimes it could be in the form of an ordinance that was adopted by the board. Some of our boards and commissions were actually created by county charter, and some are provided for in state law. So there's a lot of options. You might not know where to start. I'd recommend that you take a look at the county's board and commission website. It's bnc.smcgov.org. It has what I hope is a complete list of all the boards and commissions. And on each one, there's a section that describes the duties of your board and commission, which will give you a good starting place. And it also has a section on the authority for your board and commission. And that authority section should point you to kind of your formation documents for your given board or commission. If you're having any trouble finding any of these things, I'd recommend that you reach out to your staff liaison. They can contact our office if needed. We can make sure we track down the documents that really give you an idea of what the role and purpose of your particular board or commission is. This is straight from your handbook, which hopefully you all have. This is just a list of all the county's current advisory boards and commissions. So as you can see, there are quite a few, and they really touch on a wide variety of topics that the county needs input on. And then a slightly smaller list of our decision-making boards and commissions. These are the bodies that have the authority to make a final decision on behalf of the county. Things like design review committees, the planning commission, assessment appeals board, bodies of that type. So what are the duties of membership on a board or commission? I think really the first and one of the very important duties of membership is to understand what the function of your board is, right? So you want to understand, are you an advisory board? Do you have the power to make decisions on behalf of the county? What's sort of the realm, the jurisdiction, so to speak, of your board or commission? Again, I'd look to those formation documents there, as well as possibly your board or commission's bylaws. Those can also be helpful. It's also important to prepare for and attend the meetings regularly, right? We need you guys to be engaged in participating to give the county the best advice and input possible. We want to comply with all applicable laws. We'll cover some of those later in the presentation. And it's always important to respect your fellow board and commission members and members of the public. We want to encourage participation and make sure that we're hearing from as many voices as possible. And ultimately, it's important to be engaged in your board and commission so that you can, push that board or commission toward the best advice or decision possible and ultimately improve our community for all. So that actually concludes my section, and I will hand it over to the next presenter.
Great, thank you, Melissa. I see that there is a hand raised. Let me, Robert, would you mind holding your question until the Q&A portion?
Actually, I just want the captioning enabled for us people who are hard of hearing.
Okay.
If you don't know how to do that, you can make me a co-host and I can do it.
Yes, I will do that. Thank you for pointing that out. Appreciate that. All right, let me go ahead and do that. I can't do that at the moment, Robert. My apologies. I think I'm maxed out on host right now. So we will work on that momentarily. All right. Thank you. Okay. So now we are going to move on to Craig Wiesner from the LGBTQ Commission. Craig.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and ask that all-important question. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
All right, great. Thank you. So I'm Craig Wiesner. I'm on the LGBTQ Commission. I have been a co-chair of that commission. And the folks you're seeing right now are the current members of the commission, plus Tanya Beat, who is our commission director, our staff liaison, and Linda Wolin, who's standing next to her, who is our board liaison. And I'm going to be talking about the roles of us as members and our chairs, who are in this case, Dana and Juliana back here. And I'll be talking about the roles of the staff liaison and the board liaison. For me, when I try to think about what it is we're supposed to be doing, I always go right back to the main mission of the county government. And I look at that, and everything that we do falls out of that. We're trying to enhance the health, safety, welfare, and protect the natural resources of the community and provide quality services that benefit and enrich the lives of people in this community. So everything that we're doing as commission members, as board members, is going towards that. Each of our boards and commissions has an elevator pitch, a short 1 or 2 sentence statement that says what it is that we do. And here are some examples of boards and commissions elevator pitches for the county. I'm not going to read them all. I'm just having you take a quick look. Then each of our commissions or boards drills down and has a purpose statement that really goes into detail about all of the things that we as a board or commission are trying to do. I'll let you look at that for just a moment. This is the LGBTQ Commission's purpose statement. And a lot of the time that boards and commissions spend, especially in the early days of being formed, is coming up with this. And it may seem like a lot of time and a lot of work, but without this, we really can't do the actual work until we know what it is we're trying to achieve. You already saw a slide a few moments ago about the responsibilities of membership, so I'm not going to go through that again, except to say, for me, when I was chair and for me as a member of the commission, the most important thing is having as many people as possible attend every meeting regularly, be fully present during those meetings. Missing one meeting you can miss a whole lot of information that it's really hard to catch back up on. And the rest of the responsibilities, you've already seen some of them, but these are in the pamphlet that we have on being commissions and boards. At the meeting, it's really important to have been well prepared ahead of time, read the agenda ahead of time, read the previous meeting's minutes ahead of time, so that we can get as quickly as possible through the consent items on the agenda and move on to the meat of the meeting. Really important, we have as our commission, and I'm sure most do, is rules of engagement, how we're going to work with each other, including ideas like stepping up, making your voice heard, but also stepping back, being cognizant of how much you're contributing in a meeting. And if you feel as though it's too much, stepping back to make sure that other people can get their voices heard. And part of that is helped by having a really good chairperson, which I'll talk about in a few moments. When we talk about the roles and responsibilities of commission members, one of the things I did want to bring up is what we are not. Sometimes someone will walk into a room, a commission meeting or a board meeting, look around that room, see a whole bunch of people and think, oh my, bodies, people who can do X, Y, or Z, and invite you, ask you, cajole you, guilt you into getting involved in some activity or some action that might be appropriate given your board or commission's mission, but isn't really about the main goal of what your board or commission is supposed to do. We had a few years ago quite a few invitations for our commission to get involved in a lot of activities, and it resulted in a certain amount of burnout until our commission director paused everybody and said, these are great invitations, and if you want to do these things, these are great, but remember, our job is to advise the Board of Supervisors on how to make life better for LGBTQ people. Does flipping pancakes at a pancake breakfast do that? And, the answer, this was interesting, a made up example, but the answer was no. It was detracting from our ability to do our job, to be taking on too many invitations. So take invitations, but think about them and make sure you don't overstretch yourself as a commissioner or board member. Get to the meetings, that's the most important thing. The other thing that you'll see in the handbook is what boards and commissions do not do. We don't make policy decisions. We don't manage programs. We don't direct programs. We don't spend county resources, and we don't take official positions on any issues that have not already been spoken about by the Board of Supervisors. What we do, and I hope you do, is hand out your county business cards. When you meet people, when you talk about life, the universe, and everything, let them know who you are and that you are a board member or a commissioner. Let them know that you are their government. When I was walking our dog at the park the other day, somebody was griping about government. Government never listens. Nobody ever listens. And I handed her my card and said, well, I'm your government. I'm listening. And we had a wonderful conversation. Do attend events that you want to attend and make sure people there know that you are a member of a board or commission. Amplify the work that's being done by the county. We do great things and people need to hear about it. Do listen to people with your commissioner or your board hat on. And when you hear about somebody who's in trouble, who needs something that the county can provide, go ahead, connect them to the resources that you know about that can be had. You are the ground level government here in San Mateo County. As I mentioned, our chair people help us to get our meetings flowing well. They're also, one of the biggest responsibilities is listening and looking around the room and making sure that all the voices are heard. As chair, one of the most important things for me was, as we were discussing a particular issue, idea, proposal, there are people who will always speak out. They'll always speak out quickly. There are other people who are generally more quiet. And I've found that when I call on those people, when I try to draw them out, sometimes the best ideas come from the quietest people. The chair also makes sure that we're following all of the rules of the road when it comes to having official public meetings. Depending on your board or commission, the chair or co-chairs in our case may decide what's going to be on the agenda. You may do that as a board or commission yourselves directly, or they may meet separately. The chairs set the tone and the pace for the group, and they help make sure that we are really listening to each other, respecting each other, and getting the most out of each other. Our commission director, for example, the staff liaison folks, their job is kind of like this, herding cats. Each of these boards and commissions has amazing, brilliant, passionate people who are trying to narrow down millions of great ideas to just a few, and then create a work plan to take those ideas and make them happen. And then connect us to the amazing people within the county who are working every day to help us to make these things happen. So Tanya Beat is our commission director. She's our staff liaison. She is the cat whisperer. The board liaisons are people who work directly for the Board of Supervisors. Each board or commission has a Board of Supervisors person who is kind of responsible for that particular board or commission, and they have staff members who help to work directly with those boards and commissions. Linda Wolin is ours, and the great thing about having Linda attend our meetings, she's also attending our subcommittees, is that as we get ideas, as we start to move forward, she is directly connected to the County Board of Supervisors, and she could tell us, yes, that's probably the right way to go. Oh, no, let's think about doing it this way because the board is working on X, Y, or Z. They're kind of like the glue that connects us directly to the board. So that's our staff liaisons and our board liaisons. In talking about roles and responsibilities, I wanted to share the way that sticking to those roles and responsibilities, the way that being part of the connective tissue of the county, by having great chairpersons, by having great staff liaisons, by having great board liaisons, we can get an enormous amount done. And the LGBTQ Commission, for example, achieved these things in the years since we started. I won't go through all the details. I'll let you see, just what those are. But one of the things you can do as a board or commission member is make sure that you remind your board of commission of all of the accomplishments they have made. Sometimes it can seem like you're just meeting and slogging through. You may walk into a period of time when you're a commissioner that there's a lot more analyzing going on. It's important for you to know all of the things that your board or commission has achieved. And I know you're looking at this list. I'm just going to go to the very last one by saying that we made sure that LGBTQ issues were in the legislative agenda. We worked with the county when the county found out that there was an amicus brief being circulated that could be signed by our county for a Supreme Court case that was coming up. We met as a board, as a commission, and we decided that, yes, we wanted the county to sign on to that amicus brief, and the county did. And that Supreme Court case is a landmark success for LGBTQ rights. It affirmed that LGBTQ people are protected by the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So my last message to you is basically do the work, show up for the meetings, and know that what you're doing can have an incredible, huge impact in every city, in this county, in the state, and in the country. And while you're at it, have some fun. Okay, that's it for me.
Thank you, Craig. That was very, very inspiring. Okay, now we're going to move on to Tanya Beat, who's going to provide us with an overview of how to have an effective meeting. Tanya?
Good morning, everyone. Just doing a quick audio check. You can hear me okay? All right,
Yes.
Awesome. My name is Tanya B. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I work for Human Resources Department. My full-time position is actually as a board and commission staff person. I manage 3 commissions. One is the Commission on the Status of Women. The other is the LGBTQ Commission. And the third one is the Domestic Violence Council. Before I go on though, thank you, Craig, for that great overview of roles and responsibilities. If you're interested in the LGBTQ Commission and getting involved with our commission, please contact Craig or myself. We're always looking for volunteers, which boards and commissions can have. All right, let's see, let me share. Okay, hey, I'm going to be talking about effective meetings. And this is really a basic overview for any of you that have ever been in a meeting. This should be a review, thankfully. Woo! A commission meeting is very similar to any kind of meeting that you're running, facilitating, or being a part of. So definitely when we hit the Q&A, which is right after this, please collect your questions, because I'm sure all of you can be even a more helpful resource than I am. I've only been doing this for 4 years. Craig was actually a commissioner before I came on, so he actually helped me learn a lot about his particular commission and how they ran their meetings. Excuse me. Let's see. So, meeting basics. I like to start with basically, what are your meetings for? I mean, it's really just quite simple. To start with, what are your outcomes? Or even asking the question first, what are our outcomes for this particular meeting or for any of your meetings as you move forward? A lot of people have different ways to structure their meetings. Some are more formal and start with old business, new business, and so forth. With my commission meetings, I like to list the agenda items and then actually clarify what kind of agenda item they are. So for example, with your outcomes, you could have people presenting to your commission on a variety of different topics. It could be a proposal, it could be a resolution that they want you to look at. It could be a piece of information that's important for your commission to have. So for any kind of presentation, in parentheses, I just make it a presentation. There's no action on this item. There's no decision making. It's just a presentation. A lot of times there are opportunities for discussion. A topic is presented and you want to be able to talk about it. Well, that's great when it's a focused discussion and it's planned ahead of time, that it's facilitated. What a focused discussion is not, it's not a time for generating ideas or what we sometimes call brainstorming. I'm not saying that you can't do brainstorming during a meeting, but it's highly recommended that it's a highly facilitated and structured brainstorming session that has very specific outcomes. So for example, if you need ideas from the commission to recommend for what you need to do at your resource booth at a health fair, you could say, we're taking 8 minutes out, we're going to brainstorm a variety of ideas for 2 minutes, and then we're going to take the rest of the time to discuss those generated ideas to come away with our top 3 ideas that we want to look at. Very structured. So, but it's not, discussion's not just for anyone to say, I have an idea. It's great that they can share that information, but it's not for generation of ideas. And then the biggest part, I think, of coming to a meeting is looking at decisions. What actions are you taking? And that needs to be clarified ahead of time. If it's an action item, I definitely put that in parentheses so that folks know that they're going to be prepared to make that decision.
Tanya, if you
Yes.
wouldn't mind speaking up a little, I think folks are having a hard time hearing you.
Okay, how about now?
I think
All right.
that's better.
All right.
Yes, thank you.
And I'll hold my mic.
That's much better. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. I brought in just a basic agenda example of a meeting that was held about 3 years ago with the Commission on Status of Women. This may be hard for you to see, so I can pop that document in the chat when I'm done with this. But it's everything from identify who's facilitating that agenda item, how much time that they have for that agenda item, and in parentheses, what they're going to be doing with that agenda item, whether it's a presentation, discussion, action, report out, or an update, so that it's very clear on how this agenda item is going to go. But agenda setting. Craig mentioned this briefly around agenda setting. I set agenda with the officers of the groups that I work with. I meet with them about 2 weeks before the actual commission meeting. We go over any outstanding agenda items that were brought up by previous commission meetings or commissioners. Commissioners can request things on the agenda. And we do a draft agenda first, and we review that and discuss that. Another thing that's really helpful to determine your agenda is looking at your meetings are to help you achieve your work plans, really. And so looking at milestones for the year, it may be a good reflection or check-in to review an objective that was made by this commission. Along with the officers, we look at the draft, we discuss it, and then we walk away with assignments. Like I need to connect with commissioners about something that's due for that meeting, or the officers need to prepare to facilitate certain agenda items. So what's really important is that officers are elected with my bodies. And as soon as they're elected, I have an immediate meeting with them, an orientation with them, because they really are the keystones of our meetings and facilitation of our meetings. So I meet with them to go over what is our designed alliance, which is how do we want to work together, the three of us or the four of us in this year? How often do we want to meet? Let's clarify some expectations about working together or meeting together. I like to know what's their vision. They're the officers of this commission. So what's their vision for the year? What goals do they want to meet? It's being able to step back and look at that. And then I also like to ask, what's currently working for this group? And what maybe needs to change? So this are things like, oh, we need a wellness break, perhaps in our 2-hour meeting. We need a break for 5 minutes to stand up because virtual meetings can be really challenging for folks. Or we need a reflection on our mission at the beginning of the meeting, or something else. And so we incorporate these adaptations and revisions to our meetings overall, but I do that with every elected officer for my meetings. Now transition to how do we meet and process for that? So it's highly recommended to use Rosenberg's Rules of Order. They're not Robert's Rules. They're sort of like a simplified version of Robert's Rules. They're meant for people in a way to take away the hierarchy so that everyone's heard and everyone's included. It provides a structure and a process for meetings and how they flow. And the officers, either the chairs or the vice president or the president, facilitates this process. The handbook is excellent at this. I think it's page 16 or page 17 where it talks about Rosenberg's rules, but it also takes you through in subsequent pages, like how do you do a motion? How do you incorporate public comment? That's a great flow chart. I love this new handbook. It's so helpful. So I wanted to end there to definitely make sure that you review that handbook. And then, of course, I think we have the Q&A after this. So I'm going to turn things back over to Connie.
Tanya, thank you for that excellent overview of the basics of meetings, which is always so important to know. Okay, with that, then I'd like to, and we are on surprisingly ahead of schedule, so I want to open it up for questions at this point. So if you have questions for our presenters, you can ask two ways. You can raise your hand, or you can type your question in the chat. Any questions?
Is there anyone here who can speak to what is being done to recruit and retain African American clinicians and psychiatrists?
Can you, I'm sorry, before you go on, can you identify yourself and
My
tell us
name is Candace Hawley. I'm a former peer support worker. I'm a graduate of the Lived Experience Academy. I'm a member of the LEEW and AACI and the Spirituality Initiative, as well as on the board of the MHSARC.
Okay, and your question is with regards to the hiring of African American clinicians?
The recruitment and retention. Is there anyone that can speak to that on a county level? Like, what is being done to meet the needs of this underserved community?
Yes, I don't think the county executive has left the training to be able to answer that question. I cannot personally answer that question. The county health chief is not here, so I am happy to take your question back to the appropriate staff for a response.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's, we're moving on to the next question. I think I saw some hands and now they have, if you had a question, Karen, please go ahead and ask your question.
Sure. Thank you very much. I was wondering for the woman who just spoke, or for the LGBT committee, or any of the, commission, or any of the groups, we at the Commission on Aging are doing a retreat soon to set our next 3-year set of goals. And I was wondering if anyone has gone through a similar exercise and have any materials, agenda, templates, or anything that we could use that could inform that process for us. But if anybody does, if they could, I don't know if they could coordinate through you, Connie, or through our liaison, but it would be lovely to be able to kind of not reinvent the wheel, but leverage something that others have used. So thank you so much.
Sure, and maybe I'll kick that one off to Tanya, since she has responsibility for, as she mentioned, three different groups and has lots of experience in this area.
Yeah, real quick, Karen, I can provide you some materials, but in general, it is really important for commissions and boards to have a retreat. I typically try to schedule a retreat for my groups once every 2 years or so. And the purpose of the retreat typically is to step back and reflect, but also look forward in creating new work plans for the subsequent new years. They typically are on a weekend because most commissioners work, and they're usually approximately 4 to 5 hours, a half day. And I always have an outside facilitator come in and facilitate that process. So I work with the officers, the facilitator, to determine what the goals and outcomes of that retreat is. I can send you some of that information, as well as recommendations for facilitators around the county that would fit best for your group.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tanya. Joanna, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Johanna Rasmussen with the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Commission. My question has to do with emails. I know there was some talk about the county issuing members of boards and commissions a county email to help us adhere to the Public Records Act. Can you give us an update on where that stands, please?
Yes, that is something we are in discussions with the Information Services Department. And so we have not reached a conclusion yet on the ability of commissioners to get a county email. There's a number of considerations that need to be taken into account. But we are looking at the issue and hope to have some kind of response for you soon.
Thank you very much.
And Connie, if I could jump in on that, I know for our commission, many of our commissioners got a separate email account specifically for their commission work, just to make the record keeping easier for them, so that any official commission business they did, I do mine at commissioner.craig@gmail.com instead of my regular email address.
Thank you, Craig. Okay, Commissioner Mann.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How we doing? Thank you for putting this together, first of all. It's about to rain real bad. I know we are in need it. We haven't had rain in 2 months, but I just want to jump on here real fast and just really appreciate the county for putting this together. And I just want to circle back to what our county manager said. I kind of feel that, and this is not really a personal thing, but some people ask you about commissions, and some people ask you what you do and how you volunteer your time, and that you're a part of juvenile justice. Or me personally, I'm on the Park and Rec, Parks Commission. There's the planning. We've got in San Mateo County, we have beautiful, beautiful commissions. And I think and Supervisor Carol Groom, I attended a session maybe 3 years ago with Commissioner Okello from my respective Parks Commission. We had a lot of great people. We basically met with youth, community leaders, and there was a presentation on, okay, so what do you do? Connie, what do you do? And how do you basically bring growth? So for us in parks, we have post, hopefully, once COVID emerges out of everything, we have days at the park, we have retreats, we have nights at Coyote Point with movie nights and kite days. So I want all, and I appreciate the gentleman, the chair from the LGBT. You open up my eyes to see what I'm born and raised San Franciscan, so I have a lot of San Francisco in me, but I've also been in San Mateo County over 20 years. But I appreciate the gentleman from LGBTQ to speak on this and to further entail what it is that commissions do, because people do need to know what we do.
Thank you, Commissioner Mann. We appreciate your comments for the group. Thank you for sharing that. I think there might have been another hand that was raised, but it looks like it has been put down. I just wanted to go to the question in the chat. It says, as an advisory council, we're often asked to issue proclamations of support for local causes. PMAC is PMAC. This is the far south coast. Does this cross the advisors don't make position statement rule? Sounds like this is a question for the county council. Melissa, any thoughts on that?
Connie, I actually was slightly distracted at that moment, and I can't seem to see the questions. Dan, did you catch that one?
I'll repeat the question.
Go ahead,
Melissa. Yeah, the question is that as advisory council, we're often asked to issue proclamations of support for local causes. And so does this cross the advisors don't make position statement rule?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think that it certainly could, right? I think we'd want to take a look at the specific proclamation, the action that that you're being asked to take, and take a look, probably working with your staff liaison and or your assigned county council to determine whether the thing that you're being asked to support, first of all, fits within the mission of your board and commission, and second, fits within the authority of your board and commission to actually take that action. So I think it's a little bit of a case-by-case scenario, and we'd want to take a look at the specifics in those situations.
Great. Thank you, Melissa. I just wanted to respond to a comment in the chat about the presentations. Yes, again, the presentations will all be made available after the training session. We will be posting it on the boards and commissions website, and we will also send out an email letting you know where to find all of the materials that are being shared today. Lauren Silberman, can you please go ahead and ask your question?
Good morning, everyone. First, I just want to say a big thank you for putting this training together. It's already been super informative. I serve on the Agricultural Advisory Committee, and I just wanted to circle back to the issue with the lack of closed captions and just share that I believe this has been a consistent ADA accessibility issue for the past 2 years. We had a member of our committee who was hard of hearing and was unable to participate in the virtual meetings in 2020. We brought this concern repeatedly to the planning department without any remedy for it. So just understanding that we're now 2 years into virtual meetings and we don't have consistent accessibility for those who are hard of hearing, I just want to encourage the county to address this issue and ensure that everyone can access our boards, commissions, and committee meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. We appreciate that comment, and we'll take it very seriously. Again, we have Shireen Malacazali, who is going to follow the Q&A. So we are going to be working very closely with her to ensure that this all happens, that staff, including myself, is trained on all of these issues. So thank you again for raising that issue. Helen, can you please ask your question?
I am a member of the Advisory Committee. I wonder how do we create a drive on the county website?
Helen, I'm sorry, I did not catch all of, maybe Susie Castoria?
Yeah, I'm here. Helen, I know that you want something created on the county website. Can you tell me what it is, please?
Helen, are you talking about a drive where documents and things can be stored and shared?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, thanks, Craig.
So a space on the website where documents can be stored and shared with other members of the commissioner board.
Yes, thank you for raising that issue, Helen. Yes, we're looking at finding better ways to share materials across boards and commissions. So we will be working with the liaisons and staff on this. So more to follow on that. We've got some ideas on how to do that.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, I think we've got one final question, and then we're going to move on because we want to stay on time. Then Mita Okello, and my apologies if I mispronounced your name. Can you please go ahead and ask your question?
Hello.
Yes, hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay, because my unmute thing is not showing that I'm unmuted. But in any case, I really want to thank Craig. I think that was a pretty good presentation on what the responsibilities are for the various boards. I think that was, something that I truly appreciated, and I'm sure a lot of people did. And then I'm also very appreciative that we are having this, this particular training, because I've been on the Parks and Recreation Commission board. My name is Meda Okello. I've been on the Parks and Recreation board for several terms, and never had this at this level. I think when we first got on, we did have a joint meeting with other boards, Park and Rec Commission members from the various cities in the county, and it was an extremely helpful experience. I do have a couple who are staff board liaison.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Okello, we're having a very hard time.
The director of the department usually.
Commissioner Okello, I'm so sorry, but we're having a very hard time.
Amongst others, for who among the board of supervisors is our board liaison.
Commissioner Okello, I'm so sorry, but we're having a very hard time hearing you. Your audio is very glitchy. So I'm sorry. It's.
I'll put that question in chat.
Yes,
I'll put that question in the chat.
I was just going to suggest that. Thank you. Okay. All right. We want to stay on time. So we're going to move on now to our next presenter, who is Shireen Malacazali. Again, she's the county's new Chief Equity Officer. And we're very excited to have her here in the county manager's office. And Shireen's going to talk about equity in boards and commissions. Shireen?
Hello, everyone. It's so good to be with all of you here today. It looks like maybe Connie, host has disabled participant screen sharing. Could you maybe re-enable it so I could share my screen? While she's doing that, I just want to thank all of you so much for your service here and taking all this time out of your schedule to also be trained. I know all of you have lots of things going on in your lives, and just want to appreciate you coming in, because it's such an important part of equity is to have community voice in our democracy, and that really takes folks like yourselves. So I appreciate that. My name is Shireen Malacazali, she, her pronouns. I'm the Chief Equity Officer, and it's a new role for the county. I've been in this role now about 8 months, but I have been with the county since 2013. And I've been squarely working on issues of equity for over 20 years now. It's been my passion and my focus. And I am just excited to be with you. It's just a short presentation, so I want to set expectations that we're not going to be able to delve really deep into concepts of equity, inclusion, and diversity, but really bring just some foundational understanding that we could all be on the same page of. And also recognize that many of you could teach probably a doctoral course on these concepts yourselves. So please bear with me and be patient as we work through this. Again, this is just to make sure we all have some foundational understanding. So I'm sorry, I was on the wrong slide. So my focus here today will just be to kind of take us through definition of equity, cultural humility, how it relates to inclusion and belonging, and then how it relates to your role on boards and commissions. The definition that we use in the county is equity as just and fair inclusion into a society where we can all participate, prosper, and reach our full potential. I use that from an old, from Policy Link, which is a national race and equity organization. So the work here for all of us is to build the conditions that enable everyone to reach that full potential. And I want to differentiate equity from equality, something that many of you will be familiar with, but some people still have a hard time differentiating between, but it's an important differentiation. So if we have equality, means that we give everyone the same thing. Now, if the goal is that everyone reaches their full potential, and that full potential in this case is watching the baseball game, if we give everyone the same thing, we don't enable people to reach their full potential. what we see is that people have different starting points. Sometimes that's generations in the making based on lots of historical disparities. And then we also have different barriers that we experience in our everyday life. So when you have equality, you don't ensure that everyone reaches their full potential. Equity requires us to recognize those different starting points, recognize those different barriers that are set in front of folks, and then give people and create those conditions where everyone can thrive. And ultimately, the goal is to level out the playing field, make sure everyone has starts on the same playing field, and that we don't have these barriers, and those barriers are not inequitable. And then moving on, so an important concept of equity is how we understand and engage with different cultures. But what is culture? So culture is these shared systems of values and beliefs. It's learned patterns of behavior. It's ever changing. It sometimes is expressed views and attitudes, and sometimes it refers to a category, but it's often individually defined. So examples of that can include, can you see the side that says examples? Is that showing up? Okay.
Yes, it is.
Okay. It actually should not be. I was hoping to be able to click into that next, but what I would like to do is we can take a look at this as examples. Race, ethnicity is one that we immediately come to oftentimes. Age, physical ability, profession, education levels, special interests, socioeconomic groups, social circumstances that we may each be a part of. So for example, for myself, and these are all layered on top of each other. So for myself, I, for example, identify as an immigrant, as a Middle Easterner, as an English learner, an equity advocate, a public servant, a mom. And I would love if you would take a moment and put in the chat, maybe some of the cultures that you identify with. And it doesn't have to be, I know you're just hearing this now, so it doesn't have to be very long or sophisticated, but just what are a couple of the cultures that you might identify with? If you could put that in the chat. Oh, can you all not see each other's chats? Connie?
Yes, Shireen, we have had to disable some of the chat function for Brown Act purposes. So
I'm sorry.
We
Okay.
apologize for that.
That's okay. I'm going to read off some of it. I appreciate it. So solo ager, no kids, Nicaraguan, Filipino, Chamorro, a Southern transplant to California, Jewish, veteran, gay, business owner, senior citizen, New Yorker, Latinx woman, Persian, German, French. And you can see how veteran, a golfer, a scholarly researcher, an immigrant, a public servant, a wife, a Chinese American, white cisgender mother, disabled, introvert, short and fat, theater person, WASP advocate. You could see how diverse we all are. And in fact, some of these you wouldn't know from looking at someone. Someone mentioned they're an immigrant, Christian, Dominican, a daughter, a sister, a mom, an immigrant, someone who has been abused. These are things that you can't see when you look at someone, and we often think that we can. We often think we can tell a lot by just looking at a person, but there's so much beyond what we can see. And those layers layered on top of each other create a culture that's very unique and original to us. Now, please continue to share. These are really wonderful. A trans variant, an engineer, a woman, a gender binary, a non-binary transgender, caretaker for a person who has special needs. I so appreciate all of these experiences that you all bring and identities. Now, one thing we understand about culture, and we don't often think about it, is that there are dominant cultures in our society, in our San Mateo County, in California, in the Bay Area, zooming out to the nation, those dominant cultures create power and privilege. And this is oftentimes invisible to those of us who have that power and privilege. But I'm going to ask again, and if you could put it in the chat, I know I can only see it, but I'll let people know. Who has more power and privilege, children and youth or adults? Please put your answer in the chat. Okay, I see lots of folks saying adults coming through. What about someone who's in their middle ages, let's say 40s and 50s, or is that 50s or 60s? I don't know, 40s to 60s, or senior citizens? Who has more privilege and power? I see middle age coming up a lot. I see senior, but changing due to demographics, 40s to 50s, 40s to 60s, middle age. What about people of color or white people? Who has more power and privilege? I see this is coming in fast and quick. The white people have more power and privilege. Women or men? See lots of men coming in. English speaking or non-English speaking? See lots of English coming in. Drivers or non-drivers? See drivers coming in, lots of drivers. Documented or those with irregular documentation? This is relating to immigration. I see documented. This is great. So this is really just to share that even if we haven't studied, concepts of every single culture, we haven't studied concepts of power and privilege necessarily, there's something innately in us that understands these power dynamics and these dominant cultures that we all participate in. And so where does some of that come from? What does that mean for us? And so when we look at that, we think about, well, imbalances in power and privilege have root causes in oppression, which creates the inequities that we see in our culture and community today. And these root causes of inequities have roots in systems of oppression, many of which have been part of the United States since its founding. And then we have policies and practices that created them, but also deepened and maintained these inequities. Now, these systems play out individually. That's within one individual person, that is interpersonal, institutionally, or across institutions and systems, and also culturally. And they can be implicit or explicit. So just to give you a few examples, some of you may already be thinking of where some of this comes from, but and I see in the chat, someone mentioned that I misspelled neuronormative, and I appreciate that. I will work on that. So let's say individually having an explicit form of oppression could look like making hate remarks. Implicit bias might be that you are in an interview with someone and you making an assumption that someone with an accent may not be as smart or as capable of being a leader. Institutionally, explicitly, that means not allowing maybe Black people to access government-backed low-interest loans. That was historically a way in which a lot of people in America have built their wealth, and therefore has created incredible wealth inequities in the United States. But unconsciously, that could look like our Board of Supervisor meetings not having interpretation and therefore not being accessible. Cultural consciousness could look like, explicitly look like placing Native American children into boarding schools to embed the European Christian cultural norms. But unconsciously, that may look like inviting husbands and wives specifically instead of a more generic partner, or assuming pronouns. And these all have these ways in which the oppression plays out have root causes in all the things that are listed up here, and I'm sure many more that are not listed here. And if you think about it, no one characteristic makes up any person. So all these, you see layers of oppression in one person. Now, this gets us to one way of really overcoming some of these challenges around power and privilege and how they play out in our interactions is to bring cultural humility. So humility is marked by modesty and behavior or attitudes of spirit. And putting culture and humility together, this means not being arrogant or prideful, showing up with awareness of the concepts of dominant cultures, power, privilege, understanding our own cultures, understanding the root causes of inequities, and being a lifelong learner, recognizing that no one culture is better than another, and contrasting that with the concept of cultural competence, which is really about, competence assumes you really can be competent across numerous cultures. And that's really hard to do because every individual is very unique and cultures are unique. So you may be El Salvadorian and identify as Latinx, but someone from Nicaragua who also identifies as Latinx, but you come from very different cultural experiences. So having really that awareness is what's very important. You approach everything with that cultural understanding and that cultural humility. So just given time, I'm not going to go through too much of this, but I do want you to pause for a second and think about the cultural affiliations that you might have that have ever made you feel either good or bad in a certain circumstance that you participated in. I know, for example, there have been times that I was used to work a lot on transportation equity issues. And I remember being a speaker at a transportation event. And I looked over and I was probably one of 3 women of color and maybe one of 10 women in a sea of men. And I felt very awkward. I felt like people weren't talking to me, looking me in the eyes when they were speaking with me. I felt very uncomfortable in that situation. And then, there's been lots of situations where I felt like people haven't understood me. I'll share that I felt like in growing up, my cultural affiliation, I've been called a terrorist before, being from the Middle East. So there are ways in which that has made me feel bad. In other ways, I've been a mom, and being at a school as a mom, I feel very comfortable. There's lots of other moms talk to each other. Whereas I think my husband, when he shows up, he's embraced in a different way, but it's not the same feeling as part of the school culture is really focused on mom being a dominant culture. So you don't have to share all of this with me, but I do want you to think about that personal experiences that you may have had, because we've all had them to varying degrees. And it helps to touch into where we might have had that experience and translate that to what does it feel like for people who have intersection on top of intersection that does not intersect with the dominant culture, and how difficult that is. And what does that mean for how you and I show up in, whether it's meetings, whether it's any interactions, with that cultural humility and that understanding of power and privilege that we bring and the challenges that we've been through. And so why it matters is, one, is really important to show up in a way that helps balance the power imbalances that are part of our dominant cultures that no one of us created, but all of us are in. And it helps also with relationship building. I have said this before, and I need to get better at figuring out how I talk about this, but my work on equity comes from a spiritual place of love. I don't think we can truly build relationships, truly understand one another, truly connect with one another if we don't come with that cultural humility, without the understanding of who other people are in their relationships with one another. And then it really requires us to connect in order to be able to learn and collaborate and understand. And that's how we leads to the best solutions and authentic belonging. So I'm going to, just given time frame, I'm going to try to quickly go through this. I want to share here just what belonging is at the center here in this diagram. I'm not going to go through this extensively, but just to share that while inclusion is important, you have your board and your commission. If we open up a seat or two for what we call diversity and invite people into that, but we don't change the culture of how we operate. We're not inclusive in the processes of how we operate. We don't really invite in that diversity. We don't create belonging. And belonging is the space where you really fully engage the potential of all the individual. And that's where innovation thrives and viewpoints and beliefs and values are truly integrated. So I think what we're really striving for is not just inclusion, not just diversity, but true belonging. And in our county, we're actually a majority people of color county. We're majority of our county does not belong to all the dominant cultures that we think about. We're 64% people of color. We're a large immigrant community. Almost 50% speak another language at home. We have 30,000 LGBTQ plus, if not more. We have a large people with disability community. These need to be to be honestly, everyone of our dominant cultures needs to skew towards who really makes up our county. And so as a board or commission, an equitable democracy is critical to achieving equitable outcomes and advancing equity. And our boards and commissions are our formal community engagement structure. And therefore, we need to make sure we have diverse voices, wisdom, and experiences of our residents integrated into those decision-making processes, the guidance that we give to decision-making bodies, and they bring that full cultural perspective. And also, boards and commissions serve as a huge development of our pipeline for civic leaders. And so it's so important for us to make sure we have representative voices that could therefore continue on to be our civic leaders. So I think what's important here is to share that as you represent the diverse voices of San Mateo County and their experiences, needs, and aspirations, it's important to have your ear towards what that looks like and who those are, and also to be an ambassador to diversify and bring equity and inclusion into your boards and commissions. And as a representative for the county, you have the responsibility to approach others and the work with that cultural humility so that work can advance equity. Finally, I just want to share that we are doing a lot to advance equity. I've been here since May. We have so much work to do. And we do have a racial equity resolution in the books. We have a draft racial and social equity action plan, which 21 departments have identified specific actions they're taking. We have interdepartmental teams that are moving very specific efforts around having a template for an equity impact assessment, having trainings, having community engagement tools, and making sure that our hiring and our procurements are inclusive of our local diversity and small businesses. And through the work of Connie and our county manager and partnership with myself and others interdepartmentally, we have been working on thinking about how we build diversity and equity into our boards and commissions. We've done, Connie and Sam have led a demographic assessment. Thank you all for having filled that out. We're also reviewing all of our applications, the policies, practices, our recruitment strategies, and really we'll be looking to you for feedback on how we can bring equity more strongly into our boards and commissions. And with that, I am 1 minute over, and I thank you so much for your service. I really do, and I'm also available to your boards and commissions for questions, anything that comes up, and I do hope that you share the vacancies that are available so that we can diversify our boards and commissions. With that, I'm going to stop sharing, and I think we have time for Q&A.
Yes, thank you, Shireen. Thank you for that very important information. I'm going to try to keep us on time, and there is one question, so I want to give Mr. Moore a chance to ask his question, and then we're going to go ahead and take a 5-minute break. So we are running a little behind, but we'll try to make up for it in the second part. Mr. Moore, you need to unmute yourself.
Thank you very much, Connie. I appreciate it. Thanks very much, Shireen. I just want a comment I also want to make, that is, I wish that this topic, the equity topic, could be taught in all parts of the country, because the cultural humility is something that needs to be taught. For those of us who are minorities, and we are faced with a lot of these things that she's talked about, and you go on an interview, people don't look at you, and you're answering the questions, but they're busy doing something and they're distracted. So that the ingrained and inborn kind of feelings that they grew up with about, don't play with that guy, he doesn't look like you, so don't even come close to him, is still there. You can see it when you go to interviews and you're talking to people and they look at you like, well, you're not important. For me, it's not right. And I think in California, we are blessed a little bit, because this is a melting pot and we have a lot of people with diversity. We're diversified here, but I think it's wrong for the country right now, for example, to be marginalizing other communities and changing their constituencies so they cannot vote. It's really hard if you're a minority and people use vituperative language against you because they figure, well, yeah, this perception is not always guaranteed. They look at you and say, yeah, I don't think he knows, he can conduct a meeting because he's Black or something like that. I want to dispel that myth, because most of us have integrity and we went to school. And so I think what you're doing is good. And I hope that I'll be able to give some more feedback when we have the chance to solicit suggestions from us. And I am actually with the Measure K committee, as well as the School Personnel Commission in Daly City, and I know you very much, Shireen. We've met before, and I've been a planning commissioner. So I've been through all these meetings, but this is the first time we are talking about equity, and I'm glad, because we need to have this kind of stuff in everywhere where we work, and so people can understand that there are inherent prejudices all over, and we need to beat those. We need to stamp them out. Otherwise, we can't grow. Okay, there are three kinds of people in this world: those who watch things happen, those who make things happen, and those who say what happened. We want to make things happen instead of saying, I don't know what happened. What's happening here? Yeah. So that's my contribution today.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. We appreciate your comments. Before we take a break, I want to give Liz Taylor, who I believe has a question, an opportunity to ask it, and then we'll go ahead and take a 5-minute break.
Thank you, Shireen, to work on this because I'm a white person and I was so discriminated, questioned my knowledge many times by very educated people. And all the time I was 20%, 30, 50% less worth it than my coworker. I'm so glad you're working on that. Thank you very much. Oh. And I just wonder how the other minority feel when I'm a white person feel like that. How you feel like that. I feel sorry that we came to that point, and I'm so glad you're working. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. We appreciate your comments. Shireen, if you wanted to say anything.
I just want to deep appreciation for the comments that have been shared. That is so heartfelt, and I know that many of us carry a lot of scars with us. And it's important to recognize that we're hopefully at a tipping point. I see progress I see hope, and I hope that working with folks like yourselves, we can make a difference. Thank you all so much.
Okay, with that, then we will take a 5-minute break. If we could all get back on at 10:06, we will launch the second half of the training then. So thank you, everybody. Okay, it's 10:06, and so we're going to go ahead and launch the second half of the training. I hope you all were able to take a quick stretch, get some coffee, water. I know I did. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass the presentation on to Sam Tucci. She is a legislative analyst in the county manager's office, who's going to give us an overview of legislation and advocacy. Sam?
Can everybody see this? I'll assume yes. So first, I'll be providing an overview about the county's advocacy policies. So why does the county engage in legislation? The county has a few reasons that are spelled out in one of the policies I'll show you later. It's mainly to secure legislation and funding that benefits the county and its residents. So we do so through coordination at the Intergovernmental and Public Affairs Unit, which consists of myself and Connie. And we work with elected officials and others in state and federal government to make sure the county is able to provide the best services to its residents. If you're not familiar with legislative engagement, you might wonder what it even means. So it can lobbying can look like talking directly to state and federal elected officials and their staff. It can take the form of publicly testifying at meetings or committee hearings. Quite often, we submit formal written letters to elected officials that outline our views on particular policy proposals. So if your board or commission is interested in something, this is likely what form your advocacy would take. And it can also take the form of engaging in larger advocacy organizations. So for example, the county is involved in the California State Association of Counties or the County Welfare Directors Associations and more. And you might be familiar with other associations related to the boards and commissions that you work on. So our important information is housed in the county manager's office website, which looks different starting this week. So I want to show you where you can find us. We're in the Intergovernmental Affairs Division. And once you get to our site, you can scroll down and find our important resources. What I want to highlight for you is our County Legislative Coordination and Advocacy Policy. It looks like this. It's about 7 pages. And if this is something you're interested in, I would recommend you read the policy in full. It spells out all of the county's procedures for engaging in legislation. And this applies to all county staff and board and commission members. So if you're going to engage in legislation, the first step is to understand your issue. You need to know what's going on. To keep tabs in your issue area, you might become aware of certain legislative proposals through the news or social media, or even mailing lists that you're on. And your staff liaison can be a really helpful resource if you need more information about what's going on legislatively. The next step, if you see an issue that you want to engage on, is to consult our county legislative program. You need to compare your position on whatever proposed policy is to the established policies of our county. And these are spelled out in detail in our legislative program. It's a fairly lengthy document. So I'll explain more about what the document is later. So step 3, if after you discuss with your staff liaisons and your board and commission would still like to advocate for a position on a bill, then they need to work with us in the Intergovernmental Affairs Unit. Our unit will give your staff a bill analysis form in order to provide some important information that helps us understand the issue and inform any potential advocacy efforts. So we'll want to know things like, what does the bill do? Who's supporting and opposing it? And what's some background on why that's happening? Really importantly is how does it impact the county? What are the fiscal or operational impacts? And this is particularly important because even though a position might seem really valuable to your board or commission, it might have unintended consequences in another department. So it's important to coordinate across the whole county and figure out what's best as a whole and make sure that we discuss that. And then again, we would ask on this analysis if the position you'd like to take aligns with our county legislative program. Based on the analysis and conversations between us and your staff liaison, it might be appropriate to request an official county position. And the main concept that drives whether the county can take a position is consistency with the legislative program. If the position is consistent with our legislative program, our office can assist in drafting a letter of support and getting it to the right folks. If the position you'd like to take is inconsistent with the board program, or it relates to a position, or it relates to a subject that's outside of what's spelled out in our legislative platform, then it will require formal board approval. So to do this, we need to draft a comprehensive bill analysis and agendize your request to the board for formal board approval. So we would need to draft a memo and resolution and put it through the agenda process, which if you're familiar with, it might move at a slower pace than whatever bill or policy you're advocating for. So it's something to keep in mind. And then if the board so chooses, they may approve your request, and then we could advocate on behalf of your position. So the legislative program I mentioned is on that same resources page on our website. I suggest you take a look at it. This is what our 2020 program looks like, and it should be on our website shortly with the website update. I think it fell off, but it will spell out our priorities for the year, which indicate what items we're going to be actively engaging with our legislature on. And then the bulk of the document spells out our standing policies, and these are developed through coordination with every department in the county. So we use their expertise to say what types of policies the county would most benefit from. So there might be sections that relate to your board or commission. I'd recommend you read them. And this program is also approved every single year by the Board of Supervisors. It goes under a thorough overview, and we will revise it with the help of all the departments every 2 years and in alignment with our state legislative cycle. So the main rules of legislative engagement for boards and commissioners are first to work with your staff liaison. They'll help make sure that your positions and thoughts are coordinated through our office. Do not take any action that would imply the county's support or opposition to any pending legislation unless it's consistent with board approved positions. And this doesn't mean that if it's something that's in the legislative program, you can go say something about. You also need to coordinate that through our intergovernmental affairs unit. So talk to your staff. All legislative engagement has to be coordinated through our unit. And if you appear before a legislative body to express a personal opinion, you need to state for the record that you're speaking as a private citizen and not on behalf of the county or on behalf of your board or commission. My number one takeaway for everything is to work with your staff liaison on this, and don't surprise them. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam, for providing that overview of our legislative process and policies here. Of course, we will always are available to help answer any questions with regards to our legislative program and the processes that the Board of Supervisors and the County Manager's Office follow. Okay, with that, I'm going to go ahead and kick it off to Melissa and Dan from the County Counsel's Office, who are going to talk to us today about the Brown Act and other legal guidelines. So Melissa and Dan.
Good morning, everyone. It's time for the law. Melissa, if you could share the PowerPoint, we can dive right in. So we're running a little short on time today. The things that we're going to cover: the Brown Act, the Public Records Act. We're going to briefly touch on ethical considerations and Form 700s, which only affect some of you. These are things that we could spend half a day, and in some cases a day, giving you a legal presentation on all the intricacies of these issues. I think we originally had 45 minutes to do that. We probably have less now. So this is just going to be a broad level overview. The idea is not for any of you to become an expert on any of these areas of law. The idea is so you get familiar with them, you can spot the issues. If you have questions, you can always, if they come up as you're doing your board and commission work, you can contact your liaison. If your board or commission has assigned county counsel, you can contact your assigned county counsel and ask those questions. But hopefully after this session today, you'll be able to spot these issues. I did notice in the poll that I think about 80% of you had already had some form of Brown Act training. Well, this will be a nice little refresher for you. So we will dive right into this. Because we're lawyers, I do have to give you some legalese first. The information provided in this presentation does not and is not intended to constitute legal advice. Instead, all information, content, and materials for this presentation are for general information purposes only. All right, let's get going.
All right, so with that, I'm going to dive into sort of a general conceptual overview of government transparency laws. Why do we have them? There's a real strong ethical value to our government transparency laws, which include the Brown Act, the Public Records Act, the Political Reform Act, which addresses conflicts of interest, as well as other laws. And really there's two ethical values. One is trustworthiness, right? So the public trusts a process that they can observe. If they can't see how decisions are made or how the government is deciding to end up taking the actions that it takes, we have a lack of trust. The second strong value is respect. All perspectives have a right to be heard and a right to be considered as a part of that public decision-making process. This really all gets to the concept that how the government conducts the public's business is in fact the public's business, right? So we're a democracy, and the public ability to see how decisions are made is fundamental.
So this is Ralph Brown. He's not actually the author of the Brown Act. The authors of the Brown Act, one was a reporter for the San Francisco Chronicle who had done a several weeks long piece on public boards, local agencies who were conducting meetings. There were laws in place at the time that those meetings needed to be done in public, but what he saw was that there were secret meetings or caucuses happening prior to the public meeting themselves, and then all the business was just sort of ready to go, and the public didn't get to see what was happening. So he, along with the legal counsel for the League of Cities, drafted this law, and then Ralph Brown was a member of the state assembly, and he put it forward, and it went through. So the purpose of the Brown Act is that public business is done in public at public meetings. So all meetings of a legislative body, and we'll talk about what that means in a bit, of a local agency shall be open and public, and all persons have to be permitted to attend the meetings. There are some exceptions to those rules, and we're gonna touch on those in a bit.
All right, so the topics that we're gonna try to quickly cover today on the Brown Act, we're gonna try to tell you who the Brown Act applies to, explain what a meeting is, explain the requirements about having an agenda and publishing that agenda before a meeting, tell you about the public's rights that are provided by the Brown Act, briefly explain what closed sessions are, and touch on potential consequences for any violations of the Brown Act.
Okay, who does the Brown Act apply to? The Brown Act applies to legislative bodies. Now you might be thinking, the board or commission I sit on is not a legislative body, but in fact, under the definition of the law, it is. Legislative bodies are governing boards of local agencies. That's one category. That would be like a city council, or our county board of supervisors is the governing board of the county. It's easy to imagine that they're a legislative body because they create ordinances, which are like the laws of the county, and they create resolutions, they legislate. But also, and this is where you all come in, boards, commissions, and committees created by a formal action of the governing board, so our board of supervisors, those boards and commissions that they create are also legislative bodies under the Brown Act. Now, it doesn't apply to individual decision makers. So it wouldn't apply to an individual elected official like the sheriff or the district attorney. It wouldn't apply to a department head at a local public agency. The idea is for these members of these bodies, it's to prohibit them from getting together and discussing the public business and making these decisions outside the eye of the public.
Okay, so there are some exceptions, and one of those we refer to as ad hoc advisory committees. That ad hoc language is not technically in the Brown Act, so I'll explain a little bit more as to what that means. Essentially, a legislative body can form a committee as long as it's less than a quorum of that committee. So for example, for our board of supervisors, they have 5 members. A committee to qualify here would need to be only 2 members because 3 would be considered a quorum. In addition to being less than a quorum, to qualify, it has to relate to something that is limited in time limited. Okay, it can't, even if there's only 2 members, if it's on a topic that is going to extend for a long period of time, it's not going to qualify as an ad hoc committee, and it needs to be a Brown Act standing committee. An example might be a committee that's formed to hire a new county manager, for example. That's a time-limited task, and that would qualify for this kind of ad hoc advisory committee exception.
So what constitutes a meeting? Obviously, when you have your agendized regular meetings of your boards and commissions, that's going to constitute a meeting. It's any congregation of a majority of members of the legislative body at the same time and place to hear, discuss, or deliberate on any matters that are within its jurisdiction. So that's actually broader than just your regular agendized meetings. That would include getting together and having a majority of your board or commission get together to talk about these things. And if you do that and it then constitutes a meeting, then we'll see how that violates the Brown Act if you don't do that in the proper way, such as a public meeting that's agendized and open for anyone to attend and make public comment. Now, traditionally, these public meetings were in person, and you had to have them in a place that was available and accessible physically to everyone who wanted to come. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, there have been some temporary changes in the law, as many of you are probably already familiar with or experiencing, that is allowing for these meetings to be held virtually. Whether or not that will continue as the pandemic hopefully winds down in the near future is unclear at this moment in time. But for now, with a declaration of the need to do it, you can continue to have these meetings virtually for the time being.
Okay, so what is an illegal meeting? Sort of the opposite of what Dan just described for you, right? So it's any time that a majority of the members of a board or commission develop a concurrence as to an action. So they talk amongst themselves and share information back and forth on a matter that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of their board or commission. There are a few sort of classic examples of how this can happen. That doesn't necessarily mean a group of you are physically meeting behind closed doors. There are other ways that it can happen We call them serial meetings. They can happen through intermediaries. We'll go through some of those. And they can also happen, via email, via social media. Some of these things that you don't think of necessarily as a traditional meeting can in fact lead to a potential Brown Act violation. So we want to particularly note to use caution around social media. There have been some legislative changes to the Brown Act to try to bring it into the 21st century a little bit with regard to social media. And the key that is in the new legislation is essentially, as a board or commission member, you can post on social media, you can share on social media. It helps get the word out about your board or commission's matters, but you need to be really cautious about interacting with any other board member's posts. So essentially, you cannot interact with another board member's post without creating a risk of a Brown Act violation. And that includes even just, a little emoji, hitting the like button. All of those things are considered discussion on social media. That's not allowed.
Okay, so as with any law, it's difficult to cover all circumstances. And people tend to find ways around laws, whether intentional or accidental. And the Brown Act seeks to close off those intentional or unintentional ways around it. So one of those ways is something called a serial meeting. Now, less than a majority of the board can speak with each other in private, away from a public meeting, even about matters that are directly before the board. So if you're on a 5-member board or commission, 2 of you could get together for coffee and you could talk about your ideas of what you want, what direction you want the board to take, or a specific item coming up on an agenda. And that would not be a violation of the Brown Act. But if the 2 of you, A and B, have this discussion at coffee, and then B goes and tells C what A and B talked about, and then C goes and tells D, and D goes and tells E, that is a serial meeting. Once A and B talked and then B told C, that was a majority of the board, and that's a majority of the board discussing through this serial meeting items that would be within the purview of the board outside the public's presence, and that would be a violation of the Brown Act.
Just another example of the scenario that Dan was describing, but in a different mechanism, is what we call an intermediary or a hub meeting. So in this situation, instead of each member speaking to a different member, there's someone sort of in the middle of the hub, so to speak, that gathers information from members of the board and commission and then shares that information with other members of the board and commission. So as those conversations occur, as they accumulate past a majority of the board or commission, that creates the potential for a Brown Act violation. And here I think it's important to note that the person in the middle that's doing the gathering and sharing of information, that could be a member of your board or commission, but this is also something that staff liaisons and other county employees need to be aware of as well. So they're often in the role of talking to a number of you. They just need to be cautious that they're taking information in, but not sharing back out in a way that could create an illegal meeting.
Okay, what is not a meeting? So as I mentioned before, individual contacts between members of a board and, or as Melissa just mentioned, members of a board and another person who is not a member of that board, that's not a public meeting. That wouldn't be a violation of the Brown Act. There's also specific exceptions for certain events. So even if the majority of a board is at a conference presentation that is open to the public, that's not a violation of the Brown Act. Social ceremonies. If you're at a party, this sometimes happens at retirement parties for local public officials. You might see a majority member of your board and commission, 5-member commission, you may see 2 other people. You don't have to run out of that party for fear that you're going to violate the Brown Act. If you are similarly at an open and noticed meeting of another body, if all of you go to one of the events put on by the Commission on the Status of Women, if every member of your board and commission is at that event or at that meeting, that doesn't violate the Brown Act. Similarly, town hall meetings, public meetings on topics of local concern. Now, the caveat to this is that the majority of the board still cannot discuss board business. So you should not be sitting next to each other at this public meeting and then at the breaks talking to each other about board business, sitting at the same table at a party, talking to each other about board business.
Okay, so agenda and notice requirements are really, I think, a fundamental piece of the Brown Act. If you think about it, if you have a public and open meeting, but no one knows that it's happening, it sort of takes away the opportunity of the public to come, observe, provide input and comments. So effective notice is really essential for these public meetings. And the Brown Act sets out really specific rules around how much notice needs to be provided for regular meetings, which are sort of your meetings that are scheduled as set forth probably in your bylaws or in your founding resolution. Those meetings need 72 hours notice in advance. And then special meetings, which some of your boards or commissions may have occasionally. They're typically called by staff or maybe the chair of a board. Those require only 24 hours notice. Each agenda needs to tell the public what you guys are going to do at your meeting, right? So that not only do they know the meeting's happening, but they know that there's a topic of concern to them so that they can come and participate in that process. It just needs to be a brief description under the law of what items you'll be considering. And it also needs to disclose any closed session items if those will be occurring at your meeting. And every agenda needs to make sure that it includes time for public comment. Oh, Dan, you're muted.
Thank you. So what Melissa just covered is extremely important. And I think a great rule of thumb is try to stick to the agenda because we want members of the public to know what it is you plan to talk about. And the purpose of that rule is so you don't hide something on the agenda or even accidentally just talk about something that maybe a member of the public would have liked to have been there to make a public comment or to observe when you talked about a specific item that was important to them. So stick to the agenda. However, there are some limited circumstances where board members can speak on things that are not on the agenda. And those limited circumstances are board members can make a brief response to statements or questions. So you will see this sometimes if you watch board meetings, city council meetings. At the beginning of the meeting, the public may make public comment. Sometimes they will make a comment on something that's not on the agenda. And a board member may make a very brief comment in response to that. Similarly, board members can make brief announcements or report on their own activities at the meeting. They can ask questions for clarification. They can refer to staff for information. So in response to a public comment, they could ask a member of the staff to briefly address it. They can request staff to report back at a later date. And then this last one I think is really an important one to remember, probably the best takeaway on this slide, and that is they can direct staff to place a matter on a future agenda. So when in doubt, if you would like to dive into something that you don't think is on the agenda or that is not on the agenda, ask staff to put it on the agenda for the next meeting or for a future meeting. And then you can have a very robust discussion on that topic without worrying about violating the Brown Act.
So the Brown Act creates a number of specific rights for the public. We've touched on a lot of these already, but just to sort of list them off for you. The public has the right to be notified of items on an agenda. The public also has the right to attend a meeting and even to make public comment at a meeting without identifying themselves. So you're certainly allowed to invite a member of the public to, share their name before they make a public comment, but you actually cannot make that a requirement of attending the meeting or participating in the meeting. The public has the right to record meetings, and they have the right to speak before or during consideration of an item. So you want to make sure that you don't take action and then look for public comment, right? We want to accept that public comment, deliberate on that comment, and then take action. The members of the public have the right to see any board materials that are provided at the meeting, and generally have a pretty broad right to speak on any or a variety of topics. Typically, I think most boards and commissions have a time for public comment on items that are not on the agenda. I usually see that at the beginning of a meeting, perhaps. So those comments might touch on a variety of topics, whereas you move your way through the agenda items, that's the time to allow public comment to be focused on the agenda item in front of your board or commission.
Okay, so closed session is an exception to the public meeting requirement. Boards and commissions are allowed to have closed sessions that are closed to members of the public for very specific reasons that are delineated in the Brown Act. Generally, the reason for the closed session that's allowed in the Brown Act is either to protect the public agency from being at an unfair disadvantage. So an example of that would be litigation. In litigation, everyone is allowed to speak privately with their attorney. If you didn't allow boards and commissions to do that, you would put them at a distinct disadvantage. Similarly, real property is listed on here, as well as labor negotiations. Real property transactions, labor negotiations, those are sort of similar, where people need to be able to have candid and private conversations about strategy and about vision and things moving forward. The other general exception is for privacy interests of others, and the personnel exception would fall into that. So discussion about an employee, performance-related issues, salary, that type of thing. Sorry, not salary, performance-related issues. The salary piece more goes to the labor negotiations part of it, not putting the public agency at a disadvantage, but the personnel is for performance-related confidentiality concerns. So closed session items, just like regular items, need to be briefly described on the agenda, and then depending on what happens in the closed session, there must be a report out of action taken in the closed session. So I think this is important for everyone to know, but I will say that I would imagine that the vast majority of your boards and commissions probably will never have a closed session, but there are certain county boards and commissions that do have them.
And with that, this probably won't come up very frequently or at all for you as well, but just so that you're aware, any information that you receive in a closed session is confidential to achieve the purpose of the closed session, right? And if that information were disclosed, there are potential consequences, such as referral to a grand jury. If you were an employee, there are potential disciplinary action consequences. There are some exceptions. For example, if you're concerned that something that occurred in closed session could be illegal, you're allowed to share information confidentially with, for example, a district attorney or a grand jury.
Okay, so consequences of a Brown Act violation. There could be a lawsuit brought by the district attorney or by any interested person. Violations could be stopped by a civil lawsuit. Some actions could be declared null and void. So if the board or commission takes an action and it is later determined to be in violation of the Brown Act, then that action could then be reversed. In very, very rare circumstances, there can be criminal prosecution for Brown Act, for intentional And I think that word's important, intentional Brown Act violations. And in the civil lawsuits mentioned earlier, there can be attorney's fees.
All right, so we're going to fly into the Public Records Act now, moving right along. The Public Records Act is a little bit younger than the Brown Act. It was enacted by the state legislature in 1968, and similar to the Brown Act, the voters approved a proposition in 2004 that made these provisions a part of the California Constitution. So I note that just because it really means that, you know, in any close call, any gray area, we're erring always on the side of allowing public access to government documents. And there is some connection to the Brown Act here that I wanted to note, that any materials that, assuming they're not exempt, are distributed to your board or commission during a meeting, those are public records. And we need to make sure that we're making those available to members of the public, in addition to the board and commission members. The statute uses the term without delay. So, so make sure you're doing that as quickly as you can.
So before I get started on this slide, I do want to acknowledge that I have seen a few virtual hands raised throughout our presentation. We do have on the agenda Q&A at the end of this. You know, we do have a lot of material to cover. So if you could save your questions for the end. However, if we don't have time to cover all those questions, I would suggest that, as I mentioned earlier, you can always contact your board liaison, or if you are on a board or commission that has an assigned county counsel, that's a great place to get some of your more specific questions answered. So let me dive into this one. So what is a public record? It includes any writing and any writing that contains information that relates to the conduct of the public's business, if it is prepared, owned, used, or retained by the state or local agency, regardless of the physical form or characteristics. So when the Public Records Act was written in the 1960s, I imagine that they were mainly thinking about paper documents, memos, letters, hard copy documents. But it has evolved, and it now includes emails, it includes text messages, instant messages, any sort of written document that you could think of, it includes that.
The Public Records Act actually created sort of two rights of public access. I think we often think of one of these two, but I just wanted to highlight it creates the right both to actually come and physically inspect records, look at the documents themselves, move them with the county and move on, as well as a right to obtain copies of those records. And it's important to note that requests can come in a variety of forms. They can be made orally, they can be provided in writing. There are no magic words. Someone doesn't have to say, I am making a Public Records Act request for this document. They might just say, hey, I need a copy of your staff report on that agenda. That's a Public Records Act request that should trigger all of the timelines and obligations that we're going to go through here.
Okay, I think this is an important piece of information for board and commission members. Public records include anything that's related to the government business, related to the business of your board, regardless of whether or not it's on a public computer, you know, a county-owned computer, or a county-owned or operated database. If it's related to your board business, just because it's in your personal email or your personal text messages, doesn't mean it's no longer a public record. Most things are probably in the cloud these days, so we're probably largely talking about emails and text messages. Those could still be public record if they're related to the business of your board. The personal information that's intermingled in that is not necessarily something that needs to be the subject of disclosure. However, it can be very difficult to separate out the personal information from the public related information. So it's a good idea to try to keep these things separate, either in separate files or in separate emails addresses, to try to keep your public business separated from your private.
All right, so what is not a public record? The statute actually identifies a whole bunch of exemptions for certain kinds of records. I think there were 76 the last time someone counted. And those are situations where the legislature has said, you know, we've looked at the balance here and we think that it makes sense for these records to remain confidential, not be open to the public. Some of the ones that are used frequently are, for example, preliminary drafts that an agency would not normally keep. Those are exempt from disclosure. So if you worked on 5 drafts of a board memo before you get that final version, we want to allow for that development process, right? Things that relate to pending litigation or, for example, a law enforcement investigation, makes sense that those things are not public until the appropriate time. There are also provisions to protect private personal information that an agency might have in its possession. So you can imagine medical information, social security numbers, those kinds of things can be either redacted or withheld from production. And then the statute creates what we call the catch-all exemption. And that allows an agency to not disclose a document when the public interest in not disclosing that document clearly outweighs the public interest in disclosing it. So the emphasis here on both sides of the scale is the public interest, right? So it's not that the agency's interest would be benefited by not disclosing or an official's interest would be benefited. We really have to be looking at only the public's interest in this analysis.
Okay, so if an agency receives a Public Record Act request, and it doesn't have to come in any specific form, it can be an email, it can be a phone over a phone call. It doesn't, you know, some agencies have created forms for people to fill out, and that can be helpful, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be that way, and we don't require that people do it in a very specific way. When the Public Records Act is received, Public Records Act request, excuse me, is received, the agency needs to respond to it within 10 days. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that the agency needs to provide the records within 10 days. Sometimes the requests are complicated, and it can take a while to gather all the records. If the records require redactions for privacy or privilege related reasons, as Melissa touched upon, that can take time to do that. But the agency has to respond to the person making the request within 10 days. And generally that response should include an indication that, yes, we will be producing these records. If there are any exemptions to the Public Records Act request, any privileges being claimed, those should be asserted at that time. Yes, we will be producing most of these records, but we cannot produce these types of records that you requested. Agencies are also required under the Public Records Act to assist members of the public in making a focused and effective request. So if the request is unclear, then the agency should get in touch with the requester and try to clarify what is it that you're seeking. We don't have that record that you've asked for, but we have this other similar one. Is that what you're looking for? That would be an example of that. And then you have to turn over the records themselves within a reasonable period of time. Now, what constitutes a reasonable period of time is not set in stone. Reasonable depends on the specific situation. So as I mentioned before, if the records are located in many different places, if the records are quite old, this doesn't happen so much anymore, but likely when the Public Records Act was written, you had hard copy records that were sent away to storage, and you would have to request those records from storage, and it could take days for them to come back. But if it's difficult to locate all these records, if it's difficult to redact them, et cetera, then you just have to produce within that reasonable period of time.
All right, so what do you do if you get a request for public records? You want to relatively quickly connect with your staff liaison, because as Dan noted, we only have 10 days to get out at least an initial response to that request. And working with your liaison, it might be a really straightforward request that you can just provide the documents with no concerns and quite quickly. Or it might be more complicated. We might be looking at potential exemptions that apply. And I think those are really the kind of situations where your liaison or your chair can reach out to your assigned county council, and we can help you make sure that we respond in a timely manner and assert any exemptions that might apply. And as with all of these government transparency laws, the consequences for failing to comply are pretty serious. Can lead to lawsuits and an obligation to pay plaintiffs' court costs and attorneys' fees if they are successful.
Last piece on the Public Records Act, in terms of fees, public agencies can charge copying costs, and that's usually, I think generally it's 10 cents, up to 10 cents a page to make physical copies. But these days that's relatively rare. There's also charges that can be made if certain programming needs to be done in order to provide the requests, or charges for other costs such as shipping, or I mentioned requesting records from storage, but as we move increasingly into the digital world, those costs come up less and less. Okay, so now we are going to talk briefly. We are running out of time. We're going to talk briefly about ethical considerations. So again, these are things that we could probably cover in full day classes. And so really, we're just going to scratch the surface of these issues so you're aware of them. However, I should note that a board and commission member's personal conflict of interest is generally a personal matter, and our office can't provide legal advice to individual board and commission members on whether or not they have a personal ethical or financial conflict of interest on an item before them. So public service ethics are unique. They are slightly different than what you might think of when you think of ethics in the private world. The values are trustworthiness, fairness, responsibility, compassion, transparency. There are more legally regulated than what you might normally consider as ethics. There are specific laws touching on public service related ethical duties. And then keep in mind that when you think of ethics in your private life, you probably have a gut instinct, a compass that guides you. I'm not telling you to stray away from that. I'm suggesting, though, that isn't always enough when it comes to public service ethics, that the laws themselves may require you to go beyond what you would normally think of as, oh, that's probably okay if I do things this way.
Okay, so with respect to conflicts of interest, the standing rules that the Board of Supervisors has adopted that applies to all of your boards and commissions, they do clearly specify that all of the members of boards and commissions need to comply with the Political Reform Act and Government Code Section 1090. I'm going to try to really quickly tell you what those are in a minute. So, we urge you to carefully consider any potential for a conflict of interest, err on the side of caution. And also just want to note that for many of you, especially those on advisory boards, these issues may not arise frequently, if at all, but just want to make sure that you have that issue spotter in your head. And point you to the Fair Political Practices Commission website, which has a ton of resources for you to learn more about these issues. So Government Code Section 1090 prohibits conflicts of interest in contracts that an agency enters into. It basically says that officers should not in any way influence a decision on a contract if they have a potential financial interest in that contract. Just going to keep going here. The other big category we wanted to touch on is the Political Reform Act, which, unlike 1090, Political Reform Act addresses conflict of interest in any government decision. So not just contracts, any kind of government decision. And it essentially tells all public officials that they can't even influence, not just make a decision, but influence any decision if they have a potential financial conflict of interest. And there are kind of 5 main categories of financial interests that they want you to think about: investments in businesses, property, sources of income, gifts that exceed a certain amount, or personal finances. If any of those things are triggered by a potential government decision, then you want to make sure that you take yourself out of any ability to influence or act on that government decision. Which is essentially what this slide says. If you have one of these conflicts, then you're disqualified from taking action. You also want to make sure you're not discussing it with your colleagues, with staff. You want to identify the potential conflict during a meeting if it's on an agenda, and you want to actually leave the room when it's considered. I'm going to skip this example in the interest of time. And just note that there's a state law that requires high-level public officials and any of our members of boards and commissions that receive any kind of compensation, salary, stipend, to do ethics training every 2 years. So you probably know if that applies to you. If you have questions, let us know. Dan, Form 700. Oh, you're muted.
I did it again. Form 700, this only applies to some of you, and we will do a slide at the very end that shows which ones, which boards and commissions it's going to apply to. So this is also in the interest of transparency. It's a form that if it applies to you, that you have to fill out every year, or when you assume office and upon leaving office, meaning your position, your board and commission role. And who must file? So high-level public positions, so county manager, city manager, that type of thing, but also employees and officers that are designated in the public agency's conflict of interest code. So some of the boards and commissions have been specifically designated, which means that those members must file. And there's also, the form has instructions. We have some links here where you can get more information on how to fill out the forms. But generally speaking, this is about your financial interests. And so what we want the public to know, what might be influencing your decisions. Do you own a large amount of stock in a company where you're making a decision that might benefit that company? Do you own a piece of property that might be benefited by a specific decision that you're voting on? The public wants to know that. So here's the examples of the boards and commissions that are listed in the county's conflict of interest code. And planning commission members are specifically mandated by state law, not just the county's conflict of interest code, to file Form 700. So we have reached a little beyond the end of our time, and I think we are at the very end of the presentation. It does not look like we have time for questions. Another thing I would suggest to you, in line with what we talked about before, if this is something that you want more information on, if this is something that you think your board would benefit on, ask your liaison, ask county council, or ask county council yourself to come to one of your meetings and agendize a Brown Act training, agendize a training on the Public Records Act, and we can come there and we can do that training, and we can have a robust discussion and answer all of your questions at that public meeting. Unfortunately, we don't have time to do that today. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Dan and Melissa, for providing us with all that great information. Again, I want to reiterate that we will be posting all of the materials on the county's boards and commissions website, along with a recording of this training session. So please be assured that you will have all the information. And of course, the staff of the county counsel's office will make themselves available to you through your staff liaison for any questions that you have. So I just want to thank you all for joining us today. I hope that you found this session informative. I know that I learned a lot, and I've been working here for a long time, so I learned something new every time. Before I let you go, I did want to ask you another set of questions to see if how we did today. So if you would take a minute to answer 2 questions related to today's training session, and then of course also future training sessions. We are going to be working to put those together, and we would really appreciate hearing from you about what those topics should be. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this poll very quickly for a minute or so. If you would please go ahead and answer, I would really appreciate it.
I'm sorry, Connie, I don't see the evaluation. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Mine came up and then went off the screen.
Mine did as well.
Okay.
It came and went before I could read it.
It came and went before the 1 minute was up.
We will connect with you. Again, I just wanted to take a quick snapshot here. So,
Connie, if you don't mind, I'll make a suggestion. You have our mailing list. Maybe you would be willing to send.
Yes, we will be following up with all of you. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. I will not share the results at this point in the interest of time. But again, I just wanted to thank all the presenters, Dan and Melissa, Craig, Tanya, Shireen, and Sam for taking time to train you and provide you with all this wonderful information. We will be sending out a follow-up email with the links to everything, so you will have all of that. And of course, we will be in communication with you about future training sessions and asking for your thoughts and input on what those training sessions should focus on. So thank you again. We really appreciate you taking time to be with us, and I wish you a good day.